So this is part 2 of drawing Thor. If you haven't seen part 1, then first link is in the description box. So hey art lovers, it's SP. Welcome to my world of portrait sketch. Subscribe now if you love art just like me, and hit that bell notification on if you want to get notified every time I upload a new tutorial or an art tutorial for you. So let's get straight into part 2. So now for this main second part, we are using the mechanical pencils for making his mustache and remaining part of his lips. So as we all know that the light source is on right hand side, so of course the dark side will be on left side. So making darker mustache on left hand side of his face will be a useful thing. Now making a small lines from coming from upside to downwards using a mechanical pencils, you can have a great, or you can say that easy beard look. If you want to give it a realistic look, you can blend it with blending stumps, or you can also use earbuds. But I will recommend you to make a base layer and blend it, then use a mechanical pencils for making outlines for mustaches. Now for making those remaining part of his beard, I am just using a mechanical pencils without making base layers, because the reference pictures that I was using was not having that much of main details that I want to make those beard and these all things. So I was going, or I have done direct method for making beards. Now for making the remaining part of his mustache on his left hand side, I'm just darkening it with a 6B pencil. You can also use a mechanical pencil for darkening them, but you have to apply more pressure for making those darker areas. Now for downward side of his beard, I'm just using mechanical pencils and making a long lines because it is starting from his chin and ending somehow a medium length of his beard. So you can go directly, or you can also use a grid method as I told you before. Now making the light side, or you can say that light and pencil color on his neck and remaining part of his beard, because the red side, or you can say that when he was fighting with the Hulk on this movie, he was having those 2 red marks on his face. Use a medium length hard makeup brush for blending those beard and making those skin tones, because it is medium length skin tones as compared to any other faces, because Thor face is little bit of more brighter as compared to any other faces. So now just blending it, and upper side of beard on his chin and his face or cheek is little bit of different, as you can see that right hand side of his face where the beard is little bit of lighter as compared to downward side. Now for making his armor, I will recommend you to use a mechanical pencil or the lightest pencil that you have. You can also use 2H or 2B pencil for making outlines first. I will recommend you to make outlines first, then make or use a color pencils. But if you are a beginner or an intermediate, I will just recommend you to use a detailed method. And if you are a used to method, or if you are used to make a portraits before also, you can go directly to. Now for making the remaining parts of his armor, it is the most important part as compared to his face, because armor will be a most detailed part, and more details gives more time. He is having a sword which is a reddish and little bit of yellowish in color. I'm not used to, or I can say that I'm not used to with color pencils, so somehow, or blending it is not easy for me for blending those color pencils. I'm used to with a graphite and charcoal pencils. So I'm just making those smaller details on his sword, and I have made a yellowish border, or I can say that the base layer of his sword that is using, I have used a yellow color and just using a graphite pencils on the first layer and making some details that you see right here. Now after making those details, you will see smaller dark portions on the sword he is using. So just darkening it with a 4B or 5B pencil, it will be a most useful part. Now this is the fight sequence between Hulk and Thor. In this fight sequence, he is wearing a black color armor and layer a bit of yellowish and bluish part on his left. So the darkest part I am using graphite and charcoal pencils and blending layer a bit of them, and I will recommend you to use a graphite first and then use charcoal. Or you can also use alternate if you are used to with charcoal pencils, or if you are not used to with charcoal pencils, I will recommend you to just use graphite pencils. If you want to have darker shades, you can go for 6B or 8B pencils, but I am using charcoal pencils for making those darker areas. As you can see that I am making outlines first and then making those darker and lighter areas differentiate. Now for making those layer a bit of outlines, you have to focus that if you are using charcoal pencils, it will not be rubbed easily. So use soft pressure, or you can say that a small pressure on small areas. Don't go for darker areas and making those smaller areas a little bit of more darker. I will not recommend you to use a charcoal pencils with a more pressure, because if you will apply a more pressure on charcoal pencils, it will leave its marks, and if you want to rub it or blend it afterwards, blending it will be a easy part, but if you want to erase it afterwards, it will not be erased easily. You have to use a sharpened rubber, or if you have to use a whitener or any other equipments for making those darker, or if you want to erase those charcoal pencils. So I will not recommend you to use the charcoal pencils if you are a beginner, but if you are committed with the darker areas with charcoal pencils, you can use or shading methods easily. Use a blending stump for blending those charcoal pencils that you have made for darker areas, and as you can see that there is a small portion which is the oval type of portion, which is as compared to more browner, or you can say that it is differentiated as compared to black. So I've just made a small oval portions, and then first I have used a yellow, then at the second layer I have used a layer bit of chocolate brown for making those outlines that will be popped out as compared to those black, which is his armor. So making popping out your colors, it is the most important part if you are using a color pencils. So as you can see that the main parts or the details part, it is the most difficult as compared to his face or any other portions, because you can see or there are more details as compared to face in his armors. So as always, I will recommend you to see your picture as zooming or I can say that as zoom out as possible. And as always, I say that use a PicsArt or any other application which will allow you to use or zoom out your picture as much as possible, because your gallery application or your main in-app application which is you are using will not allow you to use or zoom out your picture or your reference picture as much as you want. The same technique I have used on his face for making those red colors, I have used on his neck also, but this time this neck, this part of his neck, there is a more darker red as compared to those beard red, because there is not much reddish part as compared to others. Now for making those smaller portions in his neck, I will use a graphite pencils for making those smaller hairs, or you can say that smaller beard hairs also. So first make base layer, then second layer just blend it with a makeup brush, or you can also use earbud for blending those small hairs. And first
If you have learned something from this video, drop a like and share it with your friends and family. Comment down below your question and queries regarding this tutorial.